Hello, welcome to Forest Focus as we head into FA Cup third round weekend. We'll look ahead to Nottingham Forest versus Blackpool at the City Ground, weather permitting, on Sunday. And we'll also discuss the latest Reds news in the company of, first of all, Reds fan Michael Temple. Temps, Happy New Year. How are you?
Cheers, chaps. Yep, had a few days away, back and refreshed, and looking forward to FA Cup banana skin.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't prove to be the case, but we'll discuss that in more depth. Second guest today is Mikey Clarke. Mikey, your first appearance of the year as well. How are you?
It is, yeah. Happy New Year, everybody. Yeah, I'm great, thank you. Good to see you both. My voice is just recovering. I lost it a little bit over Christmas, so if I croak a bit today, please forgive me.
We will. Fear not. Right, let's start just plugging the Trent navigation and sort of a correction from me, because I don't know what I've been saying around this game. I think I might have been saying you can watch it at the nav, but you can't. It's because it's not on TV, and obviously not going to illegally stream anything. So get down to the nav, though, for the build-up at least, and if you can't get to the game, then hang around there and look forward to Liverpool versus Arsenal, or Arsenal versus Liverpool. That is on the big screen afterwards, so make a day of it at the nav, and thanks as ever for their support. Right, before we get into Blackpool, obviously the big news of the week is FFP, and we've been kind of taking the temperature of our panellists to see how they're feeling about it. Temps, are you panicked? Are you very laissez-faire about it all around these reports? How are you feeling?
I think, like most fans, a bit annoyed that you could see how we'd be a softer target than really getting into Man City, Chelsea. You've been under the microscope for months and months and months with seemingly no prospect of that coming to a head. Politically, we kind of seen how these things have worked before, that there's certain clubs who are harder to take on. And I hope we're not seen as a soft target as perhaps Everton were last year. That said, the framework is known, and it's down to the execs and the non-execs at Forest and every Premier League club to make sure they work within the rules. So I've seen some analysis on this, some interesting stuff from the likes of Kieran Maguire, and a lot of have a go Harry's trying to speculate and wind up fans at rival clubs. For what it's worth, if the technical defence about Brennan Johnson's sale being predated feels a bit flimsy to me, if that is a defence that we're gonna go with him having played matches in August, but that is just pure speculation, and there'll be people far more qualified within Forest and within the legal team that they put together to defend this robustly. So really hope that we're not pinged with any kind of points penalty, but what is quite clear from the trusted journalists that I've read and the insight they've gleaned from Forest is there'll be some kind of case to defend and some kind of argument to put forward. So I just hope we come down on the right side of that.
Morning to everyone who's watching. There's a comment from Lee about will the rumours affect the players regards FFP. We'll discuss that on Monday because Prutz is the guest and he's played, I think every club Prutz played for was under financial stress. That's probably why he played for them. But he played for Leeds when they had a 15-point deduction. And so he's well placed to talk about if it will affect the players and stuff like that. So we'll get his insight to that on Monday with Prutz and certainly Greg and maybe Emily as well. See how that all works out with their availability. Mikey, how are you feeling about it in general?
Yeah, very, very similar. I don't want to speculate or anything because we haven't got that long to wait until the decision is made. It's next Sunday, isn't it? Give or take. So I'm sure whichever way, as Temp says, the line falls, we can debate it and maybe go into a bit more specifics. I think from my perspective, and I understand it's not as simplistic as this, and there will be a lot of nuances that underpin it. Absolutely understand that. But for those people in their jobs like myself that have a budget to work within, that is always at the forefront of our minds. So whilst it's not a multi-million-pound budget like Forest would be, there is significant eyes and light shining on you when you go either side of it. So I'd like to think that every decision we made during this financial period and every decision we make now and going forward, they have that in mind. I think Mark's points that he raised on a previous episode, Matt, I think it was a couple of days ago, is exactly where I'm at, which is I would like to think there are people a lot smarter than me that are in place at the moment that have been tracking this daily, speaking about it on AGMs, quarterly business reviews, whatever they want to do, and have a strong enough defence stroke argument to have that conversation with the Premier League and say, look, we're being open, we're being transparent, this is where we are with it. If we've breached it for whatever reason, we kept you informed, you can continuously in the loop, and you have that discussion. Again, don't want to speculate, but like I said, for those people that run budgets, money is always at the forefront of your mind. So let's just hope that that's the case. Let's hope we could fall down on the right hand side of it. But if we don't, I think we do have to ask a lot of questions around what's happened and maybe sort of get underneath it, get into the skin of it, into the bones of it. But like I said, I don't want to speculate, but I am worried. I'm not going to lie. I am a little bit worried. I'm not sure why you appoint a lawyer on top of your already existing lawyers, on top of your already existing financial team, if you don't think there's necessarily a case to answer. But like I said, I am speculating, but I don't want to speculate. But let's see where we're at Sunday. And hopefully I'm worrying about nothing.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I mean, there's a framework in place and you have to adhere to it. I don't think the framework's particularly right. It feels like everything's set up to protect the interests of the biggest clubs. And I think as football progresses over the next 5 to 10 years, it's probably going to be even harder to maintain pace with them. As there's a whole Super League debate and everything around that. But for right now, clubs of our size have to work within that framework. I've discussed the John Joe Shelby thing yesterday. The TC in the panel is asking, in the comments is asking, can FIFA fine us over Shelby? I think I saw on Sky they've reached out to FIFA to see if they will, but I think that's another one that we have to wait. The Premier League don't seem like they're going to. Obviously, it was an administrative error, and it was caught by hook or by crook before anything was done. So we'll have to just wait and see on that as well. But it just seemed like a mistake on Forest's part, but disaster was averted, so that's the main thing, even if it's cost us a lot of money, which I discussed yesterday. Right, let's get into FA Cup weekends then. Blackpool beat us last season, Temps 4-1. I suppose circumstances have changed in terms of both the squads, both their standing, particularly Blackpool, who are a League One club now. They do have Neil Critchley back, who was a manager who did very well for them, and they're doing pretty well this season in 8th. How are you viewing the tie in general?
Pretty relaxed about it, to be honest, Matthew. I think with Forest and the squad we've got at the minute, there isn't a massive amount of difference, is there, between the quality of the player at the top of the depth chart and the player at the bottom. So when we rotate, we're not making massive changes to the strength of the side. I'd trust all of the players in the Premier League 25 to come into that side and do what they need to do against a team who are 8th in League One, 4 points off the playoffs. So we're not playing top class opposition. They need to be respected, but whatever changes we make won't weaken us for a game of this nature. Just one final point on the FFP thing. I think it does demonstrate, with the amount of players that we're funding in transfer fees and wages who aren't anywhere near our Premier League side, there's a decent budget there. And if we were to use it efficiently, the quality and size of contract that we can now offer a player puts us in a very, very different stratosphere to the last time we were in a game that mattered against Blackpool, which is probably that 4-1 away win towards the back end of the promotion season. There's a lot of cash wasted. This happens in every single Premier League squad. This isn't just a Forest thing. We've had to be scattergun as we've gone through the gears to put a side together, but we haven't spent particularly efficiently, have we? There's a lot of players cast off. Harry Artist on the book, endless players out on loan, a few in the bomb squad. What I want to see really now, and I think where Nuno is getting to is a smaller squad of players who are all of value to him. And in not having that wasted cash elsewhere in the car park, he can focus it and get the money on the pitch, I suppose, is what I'm saying, really. Because if you did that, if you were generally paying 23, 24 top class Premier League professional footballers, you could stand weekly wages for a goal scorer of 160, 170k quite comfortably. There's a lot of cash wasted. We have to trim it down. Irrespective of FFP, I do see the sense now of getting to a level of spend where it is quality over quantity, a smaller core, less frustrated players, less need to loan 7 or 8 out, less need to write off contracts or carry someone like Harry Arter, who annoys me every time I say his name. And I just hope this transfer window is the start of his getting to somewhere like that. But yeah, first and foremost, to answer your question, I think we'll beat Blackpool quite comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, this is a point made in the comments actually before while you were talking, I think, Temps, and I think it's spot on about wasting money. Money on the pitch is a good phrase, because we have seen so much of players, coming in, playing a few games, disappearing. Obviously, Shelby, Emmanuel Dennis for a season, Wayne Hennessy is now 4th choice keeper. I don't even know. We've got a lot of players on decent money that could be put to much better use, and I hope that's reviewed as we go on. I'll put this comment from Chris Botherway, Temps, because he's basically your best mate, isn't he? And he does sum it up well. Articles and podcasts can't really comprehend the amount of grey areas around FFP. Let's trust the club. That is true. I would certainly never profess to be an FFP expert. We are very much in a holding pattern until we hear the verdict of the Premier League on us and every other Premier League club who have their accounts scrutinised in their massive depth, no doubt. Mikey, how are you feeling about the tie, and anything you want to add around what Temp said there?
No, I agree with that. I was nodding along. I think he's bang on. In terms of the tie, I think we're just a very different beast than we were this time. Last time we played Blackpool, we were trying to find our feet. I think Cooper made 10 or 11 changes that game, and we looked like we made 10 or 11 changes. But I think even if we make 10 or 11 this game, like Temp says, there's not a great deal of difference between what many would consider to be our starting 11 in comparison to the 11 that's going to go on the pitch. So therefore, I expect a similar level of performance, and that should be good enough to be a League One side, if with all due respect. So, and we owe them one. And to be honest, I've still not forgiven them for beating us in the playoffs. So
yeah,
I've got a long memory. I'm going down.
If I see DJ Campbell on the terraces, I'm going to be very wound up, Mikey. That will trigger me as well.
Oh, I still can't get over their celebrations. Anyway, I'm very bitter. So it would be really, really nice that if the players that have maybe struggled for minutes, and the ones that want to really impress Nuno, and some of them that maybe were thinking they were out the door in January, this is a good opportunity for them to get on the pitch, show what they're all about. And I just think whatever team we put out, it should be enough to comfortably beat Blackpool, like I said, with all due respect. They do have Jordan Rhodes up front. Is he still there? Because he always scores against us, doesn't he? So that worries me a little bit, but that's just my historical memory kicking in. But no, I'm really, really confident. Like I said, I'm going down there. We're going to make a day of it. And by all accounts, there's a good crowd. A lot of tickets been sold as well, which is good, because you see some of these FA Cup ties and the stadiums are all empty. You wonder what's going off. I don't think that's going to be the case on Sunday. So well done to the fans, and let's hope we continue this good momentum, because it is about momentum. We've won Premier League games back to back. Blimey, when was the last time we did that? Somebody needs to tell me. Have we even done it since we got promoted? I'm not sure. But let's just keep the momentum going, because then we've got a massive game against Brentford. And if we go into that 3 consecutive wins on the bounce, should be some good stuff. So, yeah, I'm really positive, Matt.
I feel pretty confident as well. I mean, if it was away, then you always have that kind of worry about, will some of the players not fancy it in a hostile home crowd, a dodgy pitch, and all that. But because we're at home, I'd be very disappointed if we lost the tie. Certainly. Did you want to come in there, Temps?
No, carry on, Skipper.
Oh, good. It's when you unmute yourself, I thought there's normally a sign that people want to come in. Greg sits there with his hand over the mute button sometimes, so I can see when he's itching to come in. Right, let's talking of teams, and let's put up our lineups. Very difficult to predict, obviously, but there is some consistency around what we've picked, particularly in terms of shape. Temps replied to the WhatsApp first, so I'll put Temps's up. And I'll read it out as ever for the benefit of people who are listening or watching. Vlachodimos in goal coming in for Turner. Back four, Williams, Worrell, Felipe, Toffolo. Mangala and Yates in midfield, with Gibbs-White in behind, Wood, Dominguez and Hudson-Odoi in support. 1.4 Temps mentions it. Mikey was asking about Mangala, and because he got his 5th yellow. But the clock's reset on that now. After 90, when you played your 20th Premier League game, it goes back to 0. And I don't think it counts from competition to competition in terms of yellows. It's only red. So he wouldn't have been suspended for this game anyway. Right, Temps, talk us through this. Tell me if I've made any horrendous inaccuracies, like Dominguez playing well out of wide and stuff like that. What's your thinking here?
Far from it. I think you've raised your game, Matthew, both on accuracy and the quality of your graphics in recent weeks, and it hasn't gone unnoticed. I've changed the keeper just because Turner's having a crisis of confidence, isn't he? I don't like watching a player struggle. I think he did struggle against Man United, and then Garth Crooks went and put him in his team of the week, ostensibly for some decent saves. And in that game, if we're being fair to Turner, he was okay with his hands, but he was terrible with his feet. He was still running around the ball, and he was putting it into the stands on both sides. So the Vlachodimos will have sat there watching that, knowing he's going to get his opportunity to come in and press. So this is it. I've rotated the centre halves, given that Niakate and Murillo feel inked in to start for me when they're fit and available. But as we prepare for AFCON, we need to see what's further down the depth chart. So Felipe and Warren will get a go. Nico and Toff have done okay in recent weeks, done very, very little wrong. So I think they thoroughly deserve their spots at fullback. They'll have chances to attack, to join the attacks, and to get crossers off a width down the flanks. Really strong central midfield three. I think this reinforces the point Mikey and I were making about having this depth of players of a certain quality who certainly don't weaken the side when they come in. I'm keeping Gibbs White in the 10 spot because I think that's Nuno's mission now, to build the team around him, to get the best out of him, as we have in the past couple of weeks. Mangala needs some minutes, and Yates has been unbelievable. Ilanga's rested for Callum Hudson-Odoi. We've all seen the version of left wing that Nico Dominguez plays. He actually tucks in and becomes a fourth centre mid when not needed, and really leads that press. Turning over the ball high in this game will give us a lot of opportunities. It could easily be Origi that starts, but I've stuck Chris Wood in because I'd like to get this one done and dusted first half, and then introduce boys from the bench as early as we can. So that's my general thinking with this side.
I took the graphic down quite earlier. Someone told me I leave it up too long, and then I thought I saw a bit of panic in your eyes that you'd forgotten who your team was. So I'll put it back up again quickly and ask you about a couple of players. I suppose Felipe's a bit of a concern injury-wise. I mean, who else have we got there? Omobamidele's in our other teams, so I guess he'd be the obvious one. I mean, could you bring Scott McKenna in from the cold? You know, it looks like he's likely leaving. It does show we're very short at centre-half suddenly, aren't we?
Look, I think McKenna's in the igloo, isn't he? I don't think he's anywhere near getting a go. And the reason I left Omobamidele out of this side is my hunch is he's been nowhere near the side, and for his sake, needs to go out and get a loan. And I just think that's slightly easier to achieve if a player isn't cup tied. So ignoring that, it is an obvious one to blood him, but he's been so far from the side. I just wonder if he'll be introduced when these boys have had some exposure and perhaps need the minutes. But yeah, it'd be interesting to hear your cases for him, because I think Forest fans are keen to have a look. The Dominguez thing's interesting because I was speaking to a few Forest fans before the Man United game, and when we saw the team announced, I think we felt Dominguez would sit centrally and Gibbs White would find himself hung out wide again. But watching Dominguez in that game, it was really intelligent, actually. Obviously, the position he took up to score his goal, his general play with and without the ball. He's a very technical player, and he's very intuitive when it comes to positioning. So he won't be playing as a chalk on your boots winger. He'll provide width when we need to. He'll press the fullback when he needs to, but generally he'll try and create an overload in the middle by being more of a number 8/10 when we're in possession. So yeah, just watch what he does if you're a bit of a formation geek like I am.
Yeah, it was clever. Obviously, you know, United played one sitting midfielder and was left acres of space. It was clever of Nuno to exploit it, I thought. It'll be interesting to see how, when Hudson-Odoi plays, when Dominguez plays, how we utilise those players. How teams suddenly, they're going to realise pretty quickly they need to mark Morgan Gibbs White more closely. It'll be interesting to see how we play against teams as well that aren't as good. That's my one takeaway from what we've seen from Nuno so far. Like Newcastle and United, they kind of went at us a bit because they're bigger clubs. So yeah, that'll be an interesting challenge. Like Brentford away is going to be such an interesting game. because they tend to sit quite deep. So yeah, that's one for another day, certainly. But let's bring up Mikey's team, and then we'll do mine after. I'll read it out again for our listeners. Also, Vlachodimos in goal. Same back four, basically. Williams, Worrell, Toffolo, but Bamidele plays. Mangala and Yates again in midfield. Gibbs White gets a rest with Danilo playing as the advanced player. Hudson-Odoi and Dominguez in support of Divock Origi, not Chris Wood. Danilo and Murillo are interesting because they could potentially be playing in the Olympic qualifiers for Brazil, but none of us have seen the official squad lists for that yet. So I hope they're not. I hope, Danilo's finally getting a run of games in the Premier League, so I hope that Forest can convince them to let him stay here. And the same for Murillo, who's a pretty inexperienced player and would benefit from just playing Premier League football, I think. Obviously, I'm not begrudging players going to AFCON. That's a major tournament. But yes, anyway, Mikey, thoughts on this team? Very similar to Temps's, just a bit of a difference. Do you think it's important that we retain this shape that we've been playing in, basically?
Yeah, I do, just for a bit of continuity. So I'm still laughing at some of the things Temps said, something about, I'll refer to it in a second. The keeper, I'm the same as Temps, I'll be honest with you. So I don't like seeing a goalkeeper struggle, and I think this is a good opportunity for Vlachodimos to show Nuno what he's all about, and therefore I expect him to get the start, and then Nuno can at least say, look, I've seen both my goalkeepers in the first 3 or 4 games, and this is the one I want to go with if we're not going to bring another one in. I think most people would think that was fair. The back four, same as Temps. The only one I've got in differently is obviously Bamidele. I've worked on saying that, as you can tell. The view that was said a minute ago around it's easy to loan somebody out if they're cooked out, I absolutely endorse that. I also think there might be a rule that says you can't play for more than 2 teams in a calendar season. He's obviously played for Norwich, and if he plays for us here, I wonder if that stops us from loaning him out to anyone else other than Norwich in this country. Not sure, it just came into my head. However, I wouldn't loan him out. I'd start him, because you've got to ask yourself the question, if he's not going to play this game, what game is he going to play? So this is an ideal opportunity to see what he's all about, see if he can and get the feel of the City Ground pitch with the fans, and then make a decision from there. But I will keep him around simply because, as you were saying, Matt, the shortage that we have at centre-half. I'm not sure Felipe will play for us. His knee's obviously causing him huge problems, and he's been out pretty much the entire season. He's also out of contract at the end of the season. So if you're being cynical, you might say that might be the last we see of Felipe. Scott McKenna, of course, has been frozen out and will probably leave in January. Joe Worrell, although he's come back in, lots of rumours that he might be on his way as well. Some very reputable journalists reporting that. So if you're thinking you're losing him as well, we've already lost Bolly and Niakate to the AFCON. Blimey, who we got left? So that's why I'm advocating giving Andrew, I'll call him now, a centre-back start, because I think he might feature quite heavily in the next few weeks, and hope he does, because he's obviously a very hot prospect, big talent, big outlay spent on him, and you know what, he could surprise us all. So I would be really keen to see him on Sunday. Again, same midfield shape, Mangala, Yates, same as Temps. I've gone for Danilo. I think I read somewhere yesterday that Forest weren't keen on releasing him, so we'll see what happens with that. But I think having Danilo in that spot in behind the striker, one, because I love his forward runs, and as much as I enjoyed him picking the ball up off the back four on Saturday against Man U, I still think his best position is sort of in behind, running forward, because of the power of his runs are quite something to see. And also just to rest Morgan Gibbs White, he was limping at the end of that game. If there's any sort of knock whatsoever, don't think there is, but if there is, just rest him. And I wouldn't want to see him injured in this game, because he is going to be crucial, as Temps was saying. I think we're going to build the team around him. I think Nuno's got the same idea as Cooper. So I'd have Danilo in that role, Callum, and I think I went for Dominguez as well, didn't I? And then I've gone for Origi up front for very much similar reasons as I was saying before. Assuming Taiwo's not going to be back anytime soon, although it does look promising what we've seen in post, and maybe he's ahead of schedule, Chris Wood is going to lead that line for a month. And I don't want to see him picking up any sort of injury. So mine is quite a cautious approach. And Divock Origi, if he's not going to do it against Blackpool at home, you might as well just send him back. Sorry, but that's just the truth. So all the fans that have been saying, "Come on, give Origi a go." He's operated at a higher level. He knows how to win games on his own. He's won the Champions League, scored the winning goal. So Blackpool at home is the game for Divock Origi. So I'm starting him as well, but same shape.
My question is going to be on Origi then. So say Origi bangs in a hat trick. Does it change your opinion on him? Because I think the general consensus is he could go back if it funds or frees up space for another striker. Say he scores 3 against a League One club. Would you say, actually, look, Chris Wood's got some goals and I've got faith in him? Would you say, actually, I've got faith in Origi now?
I wouldn't start him regardless at Brentford, to be honest, because I think that's the type of game where you need a bit of experience. Chris Wood is going to be crucial there, and he's played really well, hasn't he, Chris? So I think he deserves to keep his shirt. However, it's more around, is Origi going to feature in the second half of the season? Get him up and running. And strikers love goals, right? So a hat-trick against Blackpool might kick-start him, and we need him as an option from the bench. So I think great opportunity for him. But I don't think, sound really harsh, but I don't think whatever he does is going to start at Brentford. But I do think he could feature based on his performance that we see on Sunday, as in for the rest of the season. Otherwise, I think they're going to send him back.
Temps's picture on his TV is absolutely sensational behind him. What's that, like, not 4 HD, that's like 20 HD. Very good.
You get what you pay for, Telly's, Matt.
Yeah, well, it's better than mine, so yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. Right, let's put up my team then. Again, very similar to the other lads, but a couple of, I think there's one change certainly. Temps praised my graphics. This is actually horrifically cropped. That's what's Mikey, so I don't know what's happened there. Vlachodimos in goal, and then the same back four as Mikey. Williams, Worrell, easier to say. Omobamidele and Toffolo. Mangala and Yates in midfield. I put Aguilera in behind the striker to have a look at him. I think I saw him, was it in the Blackpool Burnley Cup game? And he looked quite bright, and he had a decent pre-season. He's obviously a young, talented player, so I'd like to have a look at him. Hudson-Odoi and Dominguez as well. Give Elanga a rest. And then Origi for the same reasons as Mikey. It'd be a disaster if Chris Wood got a hamstring injury or tweaked his knee in a game where he doesn't really need to play. And I don't think we've got any young striker on the bench that's ready to come in. So, and I don't think we need to play academy players necessarily. Put a couple on the bench, but Aguilera is as close as I would come to, drastic non-Premier League changes. And I'd like to have a look at Omobamidele as well, subject to the rules that Mikey mentioned about loan deals and if this would scupper him. Obviously, Nuno knows better than us about what would serve his development, but we do need to see him play some football in the second half of the season, because at the moment he's arguably wasted 6 months of his career. So, any thoughts on that, chaps? Would either of you like to see Aguilera? You saw him, Temps, in that cup game with me, didn't you? He looked all right.
Yeah, cup game and a couple of friendlies as well. He's tidy, but I think he's one of those. You're better off out the side than in sometimes, aren't you? Because the consistency that's required to be a standout number 10 at this level is a long way away from him at the minute. What I'd ask you, Matt, is do we think Hudson-Odoi could be key in this game if Blackpool play 3 at the back, as they have done in recent weeks with 3 centre halves who are big and perhaps a bit less mobile? Could this be an opportunity for him to show what he can be when he's the figurehead?
Yeah, good point. Poor old Hudson-Odoi having to put a statement out on his Instagram last night as well, which people might have seen. Yeah, that's a good point, because he's a confidence player, isn't he? And if he can go out there and really tear it up, even if it's against a League One club, with all due respect to them, I think that would really serve him well. And we can see a lot from him second half of the season. I think we do need to buy a winger, as I've said on here, but if we can get Hudson-Odoi playing to the same level as Elanga, and get Taiwo back and have Wood playing as he is and Gibbs White playing as he is, and we've got a real promising attack there, which did not look the case a couple of weeks ago. We struggled to see where goals are coming from, and I argued that Elanga playing up front might be the best solution without Taiwo. Wrongly, you have to hold your hands up and say when you got it wrong. I didn't see Chris Wood playing like he had, even though I'm quite a fan of his. So yeah, Hudson-Odoi could have a big role to play. And you're right about Aguilera, aren't you, around the levels, which is kind of why I'd like to have a look at him, just see if he can do something. And if he does, then great. If he doesn't, then maybe he probably does need a loan. But yeah, some interest there. Anything else to add on the game, Mikey, or general thoughts on it? Is Mikey frozen?
Just one thing. Oh, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that better? Sorry, my internet's being a bit dodgy. Just one thing to add. I'm always under the mindset that get the game won. So start as strong as you can, or as strong as you can justify, and then if you're 2-3-0 up, you can then make the changes. So I wouldn't be adverse to seeing a few academy kids if there's some available. And I think starting somebody like Aguilera kind of makes sense. Just the one person, but I wouldn't make any sort of fundamental changes in that. So I think let's try and get ahead in the game, get the game won, and then if we want to see a couple of fresh faces, some of the younger kids, and it's a great opportunity to do so. But I would start as strong as I've said, really.
So here's my question, lads. Is anyone that comes in, are they just a placeholder to prevent injuries to key players? Or is there any realistic prospect of anyone come in from nowhere to force themselves into the side for a cup match like this?
Yeah, one of them. Mikey sounds like he's reporting from an earthquake or something disaster zone now. Your internet's got a bit dodgy, but hopefully it recovers. Probably just Vlachodimos, isn't it? If he comes in and has a competent game, then I think he'll have every chance of retaining the shirt, unless we sign a goalkeeper. No, I don't think so. Maybe centre half, because Niakate isn't going to play at Brentford. So there's an opportunity for someone to come in. Obviously, it's not going to be Willy Bolly. So if Joe Worrell plays well, you'd imagine it would be him. But if Omobamidele does play and has an absolute blinder, and Forest are looking for a right-footed version of Murillo, and Omobamidele is supposed to be that kind of footballer, then he could. But no, players like Aguilera and Origi aren't going to do it, are they? But I'd like to have a look hang on, I'm just going to kick Mikey out at his request. Not because he hates us, but he wants to log back in and switch Wi-Fi, I think. Here we go. Sorry for that. Mangala's interesting, Temps, isn't he? Because I thought he'd flourish under Nuno, and I do think he will. But in these early games, he's been the one to miss out, which was a bit surprising. So it'd be nice to see him have a good game, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I kind of get it. 'Cause if Nuno's given everyone a clean slate and he's thrown away the DVDs, as we said a couple of weeks ago, he picked him, didn't he? He played him against Bournemouth, and he was a little bit lightweight, and that's the first time I've seen Mangala physically bullied, give the ball away a little bit. Look, he just had a bad game, and he's probably entitled to that because he'd been very, very consistent throughout his entire time in the Forest side. So that's what I put that down to. He is one that can play his way back in. He is an all-round midfielder, and he should have so much time on the ball. He's comfortable with under pressure. He's comfortable in the duels, and I just think against League One opposition, his range of passing, his eye, his comfort on the ball could be quite telling. He's the one who has to bring poise, particularly if he's in there with Yates and a less experienced number 10 than Morgan Gibbs-White.
I'll add Mikey back in. That's better, Mikey. I'll throw this question at you. Clifford asks about give Nuno Tavarez a run out. I mean, actually, it wouldn't be at left back for me. If he did play, it would be in that Dominguez role, playing higher up the pitch as more of a winger. I suppose, Mikey, if he does play, it's a sign that Nuno might fancy him and we might keep him. But if he doesn't, then it surely signal that he's finished with Forest?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, guys, I'm on my phone now. My computer is playing up a little bit. Yeah, do you know what? I debated that as well. But I'm like you, Matt. I don't really see him as a fullback. I think he was recruited probably to play that wing-back system. And it looks like we've kind of moved away from that. So if he does make an appearance, I concur. I think he might make an appearance further forward. I think when he was in France, he played a more advanced role, didn't he? So potentially, you never say no to anything. Montiel was kind of written off by a lot of us up until a couple of weeks ago, and now he's arguably our first choice right back, and we're looking to potentially sign him on the free, so on the agreed deal that we have for him. So, yeah, he may be one that potentially features on the bench and maybe comes on, but it's like anything, and I think I said it a couple of weeks ago. These next couple of weeks are just a great opportunity to impress the manager and then decide whether you've got a future at Forest or not. My gut feel is that we'll send him back, Tavarez. However, I'm more than happy to be proved wrong. So if he starts in that team, puts in a great performance, then do you know what? He's another one that's taken the ball by the horns and might feature. But I can't see it personally, to be honest. I think he'll be one that's sent back and will free up a space and a bit of bit of wages to maybe bring somebody else in, but we'll see.
Danny in the comments asked about Omar Richards on loan at Olympiacos. I think he's played 5 minutes of first team football and he's been playing for under 23, so he is closer to fitness. It's such a shame what's happened to him, and hopefully he plays more games in the second half of the season because he is a good player, but he's a billion miles away from Forest's first team at the moment. Right, I think that covers all the ground. I wanted to Temps, anything you wanted to add before we depart? Any other business?
No, nothing to add, chaps.
Good, because I know Mikey's got one that he'll probably come off his long run at.
Oh, is it rant time? Is it rant time?
Yeah, full wind up fastball. Go on, Mikey. What have you got?
I might come back on this depending on how carried away he gets.
Well, before I go on a little bit of a rant, I just want to say a couple of people that interact with on Twitter, Claire and Evie, both gone for operations this week. Hope you guys are okay. Sounds like you are, which is good. And just a big hello to mate of mine called Jared, who watches the podcast, and also Ronnie and Jenny, who came over from Norway to watch the last game and really enjoyed it. And I met them in the pub before, so lovely to meet you guys, and glad everybody enjoys this podcast. So yes, the VAR, I mean, honestly, I don't even know where to start. So the Bolly incident, because I've not been on since that, I was fuming at the ground because that was one of the best tackles I've seen for about 6 months. And he went as far as to pass the ball to the other player and got sent off. Now, the argument we got from that, and I'm going somewhere with this, is that the laws at the moment prohibit VAR from interjecting into a second yellow. However, what they've said is that's something they'll review next year. So you basically go, okay, fair enough. I understand that it's absolutely cost us the game, but they know it's a loophole. They know it's wrong, and they're going to fix it, right? So that's fun. And then you get further games, and there's so many I can choose from where it is in their remit to change it, and it is in their remit to make the right decision. You know, do the right thing, not just follow the absolutely to the letter of the law. We all know what a good challenge is. We all know when you win the ball. You know, if you slow anything down, every challenge is a red card. And we saw one last night with Everton. Honestly, you know, people use the phrase "the game's gone," right? But when I saw that, what on earth is going on? The guy wins the ball with the side of his foot. Yes, he studs her up, but every studs her up for like every challenge. You could slow anything down. And I just feel that we're getting into a situation where people pay their hard-earned money, and a lot of money, to go and watch Premier League football. And what they want to see is 11 versus 11, and whoever is the better team over 100 minutes wins the game. But what you're getting now is 11 versus 10, 9 versus 10, 10 versus 11, people being suspended for picking up yellow cards for nothing and red cards. And it's diminishing the enjoyment of the game. And don't get me started on things like the offsides. So you've got automatic offsides that are incorporated around the world. Yet for some reason, the Premier League, again, they're going to look at it for next season, don't use it. So you spend 3 or 4 minutes in the cold, shivering in the ground, waiting for them to get the protractors out and draw a line on a football pitch, when the technology exists for them to do it in 10 seconds. So there's just so much that I could go on about. I just feel that it was brought in because we as a football community couldn't accept human beings, referees, making mistakes because the consequences were so huge. But what we've got now is technology that's being used, but it's being used by the same people. So we're still getting the mistakes. And, you know, they've got specialised programmes for it now. Every Monday, everybody watches it, 11:30, where they talk about what they've got wrong. Like this young fans chanting for VAR and stuff. I mean, what is happening? I mean, honestly, I want to go to a football game where the best team wins, and you do get a bit of controversy, and that's fine, but you talk about it in the pub afterwards, and that's fine. And I might be a bit old school, and I get it. And I know, Temps, you're very much in the camp of there's 8 million cameras, let's use them with the technology. I understand that, but until those people operating those cameras are giving us, or recommending, should I say, decisions that are accurate and based on the fact that we've all played the game, it's not just, you know, slow something down, it looks horrible, therefore send him off. It's just not working, and it's diminishing everybody's enjoyment of the game. And I hope I'm not alone in this. And I'm sorry for the rant, but it's been winding me up for about a month now. and it just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. And I've even got to the stage where I can't even celebrate a goal anymore, because you jump up and you hug whoever's next to you, some random person, and then your first bit inside your gut is, hold on, was he offside? Was he not offside? Did he touch the ball? I'm like, is this really what it's all about? I mean, honestly, if it was me, I work in retail. This is where you go, product recall, get it off the shelves, get it bespoke so it works, and then when it does work, get it back in. I just feel it's product recall time. Honestly, that's where I'm at with it. I've had enough of it, and it's ruining the game. Temps, I should bring you in, because I don't know whether you agree.
Well, in that case, were you responsible for that cheese that we were like to take back to Waitrose because it had something in it? Was that one of yours? Was it? Was that one of your recalls? I like it. I think I listen to TalkSport every now and again, and there's someone rings in once a day, basically just to shout, "We want our game back," and has a 10-minute rant about VAR, not dissimilar to what Mikey said. But the one clear and obvious thing to all of us is that guy who sat with the 30 cameras should be able to interject in any situation where the mistake is clear and obvious. Forget this loophole for a second yellow card. Forget all of that. That's what he's there for. He's got the benefit of 25 cameras that the ref can't see, replays that the ref can't see until he's sent over to the monitor. So if it is a clear and obvious mistake, that's the positive, that's the potential for VAR to be universally accepted, I think, as something that's going to improve the game. But there's still an awful lot of subjectivity and far too many mistakes being made. Few have mentioned the Calvert-Lewin thing in here, which, whilst an error, was more debatable than the Willy Bolly thing, which I'm in the same camp as Mikey as, was the tackle of the season.
Jessica's watching, Mikey, who you mentioned. She says Evie's smiling watching this. That was before you had started talking. After this last 5 minutes of VAR, she might not be smiling anymore. But yeah, good to hear she's doing well. The only thing I would say about it is I think we've got away from what the VAR should be. Temps mentioned clear and obvious, and we're examining every minutiae of every slightly contentious looking tackle based on a slow motion replay when it looks totally different to real time. Like I mentioned before we started recording, if Gibbs White had been sent off against Man U for those 2 slide tackles, one of them, then it probably would have stood and it would have been ridiculous. So yeah, we need to get back to being clear and obvious errors, eliminate the howlers, and then it might be better. But at the moment, it's certainly not fit for purpose, and it has changed the game so much that it's just not working. And it just seemed to work better in the Champions League and in other. Well, I don't follow other countries too much, but the Premier League seemed to have lost the plot with it, and it's got away from them. And it needs a big reset or recall, even in the summer. But there's a lot to do with it. The Bolly one is obviously the most egregious from a Forest point of view. But we've had others this season. The Danilo penalty against Man U, where he allegedly fouled Rashford, and poor old Wolves and teams like that can probably write a book on VAR this season. A lot of clubs have had nonsense go against them, and I'm sure we've got away with stuff as well that I can't think of at the moment. But there's probably other bits. But it does need a big rethink in the summer. I mean, Howard Webb's come in and so he was supposed to fix it, and it seems to have got a lot worse. Whether that's his fault or not, I don't know, but. Yeah, so too many issues, and we could probably do another hour on it, but I think we'll leave it there unless anyone's got anything to add.
I'll just give you one on Howard Webb. His great skill now, he's never in his kit, right? He's a good communicator. He's out there to give the opinion, the view of the process, the VAR machine, the elite game match officials, and all the things they have to go through. So he comes on telly once a month and stands in front of a big blue screen with Michael Owen and explains what they were thinking of. He pulls out 4 or 5 clips when they've interjected really positively, and that's well and good. But it all gets blown apart when incidents like the Bolly incident, like the Liverpool versus Spurs goal, where we then get that glorious audio of 3 clowns walking across a minefield, basically, and just making mistake after mistake after mistake, being really matey-pally with each other. And it's just embarrassing for everyone. So whilst I do really rate Howard, where both as a ref and now as a communicator, as a spokesperson, the leader of these officials, but away from the cameras, away from the studio with Michael and everything else, he needs to make fundamental positive change so that us and every bloke that ever rings TalkSport isn't still spinning this same yarn in a year's time.
The Jota penalty is another example, isn't it? I mean, I thought that was a dive, and it just feels like VAR now is a way for referees to back up their mate's decision a lot of the time. Because Anthony Taylor, who gives some dodgy penalties, I think he's a good ref, but that wasn't a penalty, and there was a way where they could have said, "Look, you've made a mistake there," but it feels like they're just finding a way to back up bad decisions a lot of the time, rather than make their mates look bad. And then Howard Webb is the perfect, apologist in chief after the weekend, where he picks up the phone to a manager again and says sorry. Managers must pick up their phone and see Howard Webb's name and just say, this is pointless. I don't want the call anymore.
That'll be a good YouTube clip. All the Premier League managers edited together saying, "Yeah, I've had an apology off Howard Webb, but I still lost 3-1 at Brentford and feel, ready to punch a hole in the wall." Dicey last night, wasn't it? He'll get his apology from Howard Webb this morning, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But, yeah, sorry. Mikey's just lit something on fire here, hasn't he?
He set us off a bit, yeah. But it will mean absolutely nothing to get the weekly Howard Webb call. I mean, is there an apology league? Yeah, you could get points for that, Gregor Orm says. Wolves would be top. I think Forest would be maybe top 3. So, Champions League in something. Right, I think we'll probably leave it there. Thanks for everyone who's watched along, very much appreciated. I should say, do like and subscribe. Temps looks like he's ready to come back in. I'm going to put my video up just quickly. Do us a favour, like and subscribe. It does certainly help. I can't even find the video. There you go. I've got to do that once an episode.
Wait till you see his animated logo next week.
Oh.
I put that video on at the start. The new animated music, yeah. What was the chap's name? Gabriel McKenna, Angel of Gabe on Twitter. I'll give him another shout out. Very grateful for that. Right, Mikey, thank you very much.
Thanks. Can I tell you what I was laughing at earlier on? When Temps put his team up, and I'm glad I was laughing because he mentioned Garth Crooks, and the last time I saw Garth Crooks, he was at Nottingham Station shouting at a train that he missed. Like literally screaming. Those comedy sketches where they just go, when they miss. He was doing that. I just reminded and went on a laughing fit for half an hour, which is probably what caused my internet to go down because I was pressing buttons trying not to laugh. But yeah, anyway, so if everyone can imagine that was quite funny.
I had to. Good. What are we going on now? I had to suppress laughter in the week. I took my son for an eye test at the optician's, see if he needed his glasses replacing, and the optician got him to read out the lines, and he got the first one right, and they go smaller, and he got the second one, he got one wrong, and the fourth one, he just went, have a go at that. He went, R, it's not an R, it's not an R. None of them were R's. He must be the only person who thinks all 4 letters on a line are going to be R's, but no. So I just stood there thinking about this little 7-year-old kid thinking they were all R's for the whole time. Right, Temps, thank you very much. Very weird tangent there, sorry.
Cheers, chaps. See you soon.
We shall be back on Sunday after the game in the company of Temps, and Mark messaged me during this stream to say that he thinks he can do it as well. So Temps and Mark will join me at about 5:30 is the plan. So do join us for that. We'll discuss whatever happens against Blackpool. Then we'll be back on Monday with Prutz and Greg and maybe Emily as well. So thanks very much, everyone. Enjoy the game, and we shall see you soon.